A successful business doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and persistence, which is exactly what the Coffee and Hustle podcast is all about. This is Carla Stiles from the Coffee and Hustle podcast, and today we're going to talk about the mental health in our workplace, and that is something that we all need to stay in tune. And today, Lori Fischer is going to talk about the things in the business that we need to do to stay one step ahead in our mental health, what we can do to recognize the signs and understand the statistics are real. This year alone, we're looking at around a 46% of increase of people that are needing the mental health issue. And this is something that can be a silent killer. So stay tuned in this podcast. There's things that can help you as a business owner and as an individual. And if you are contemplating suicide, please reach out and get the help that you need. Hello and welcome to the Coffee and Hustle podcast. Today's episode, we're going to talk about mental health in the workplace with Lori Fischer, the owner of Just Imagine Coaching and Consulting. Welcome to our podcast today.
Yay.
So Lori, you have an extensive background on helping one-on-one coaching with groups in their business industry. You coach and consult. And you actually help a lot of variety, different types of businesses. So give us a little intro about your business and what you do for people that are in the business industry like me.
Yeah. So my journey started back working in corporate America. So I worked with large scale businesses, those with hundreds of employees, and trying to figure out what a good culture should be. And what role leadership played in designing and or creating that culture. And of course, that also meant what does it mean to then support the employees so that they can have that kind of outcome. From there, I actually moved into then, because from choice, I really loved working with the individuals because you can see the light bulbs go on faster with the individuals. And of course, what is an organization but accumulation of individuals? So I started to steer my coaching and consulting business towards the one-on-one, but I still do plenty of group work, executive team work, and those that really have kind of the levers on how to change an organization from the inside out.
And I think it's so important because even like the small businesses still need to have someone that can help and guide them through some changes in their industry, changes in their business, even some of the background of the admin areas of like starting them from having nothing to where, you can do that forecasting with them as well.
Yeah. And, from small business, startups, entrepreneurs, I've lived that journey, so I get it. What are all the struggles that happen when you start to look at building your business and then growing and scaling your business, and what needs to happen? For me, because of my background in psychology, along with the business side of what I do, is I believe strongly in that mental model. What needs to happen for a person between the 6 inches of turf in their ears and their head and their mind to have that solid foundation, to be ready to grow and scale. But really, it just starts with that foundation.
And we talk about even when you're a business owner, sometimes when we think that we're going forward, sometimes that one thing or one change in moment can set you back 2 or 3 steps. And sometimes we get stuck and we don't really know which direction we need to take. And sometimes we just kind of figure out, okay, we don't necessarily like the word failure, but we do learn from those situations because most business entrepreneurs fail more than they succeed. And and I think that people think that we're always successful, but we really learn from failure after failure after failure to learn from building that success. And you help guide them through that.
Yeah. And the reality is every business fails at something because that's problem solving. That's creative problem solving. You fail to hit your number. You fail to hit some objective. But the idea is you go back and you do a good job of that where you do the SWOT analysis. So just to kind of shamelessly plug Carla here, but it's that opportunity that you bring in for people to understand strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats are all part of them learning better about, okay, it's only a failure if I quit, but to learn from that means then I need to examine it. And it's the same thing when we start to talk about how we bring ourselves to work. how am I as a small business owner really going to be most effective? I need to holistically look at what I'm doing. It's not just the technical skills. It's not just the business acumen. It's also what's happening for me in the way that I show up. And my mindset is the very beginning of that.
Well, I think also that the discussion today, I think, is really one of those things that people don't really like to talk about, and that millions of people are affected by. And the statistics that I'll share is basically on the mental disorder or the mental illness that is affecting us, not only as an individual but as a business as well, and that we have to stay in tune to that. And you said that you wanted to talk about the power skills in biz. So, what does that list look like?
Yeah, so when you look at, and it used to be called soft skills and people bristled at that, but really power skills, we talk about communication and teamwork as one of them. And communication is always a huge hurdle for people to get over, but it's also one of the most necessary pieces of building and growing a business. I need to be able to communicate how I am as a business leader, but what my business is all about. That's one. Two is leadership and management. So if I have more than one employee, I am in that leadership management role, and I need to be able to articulate what my business is about when I bring new people in, when I get ready to scale my business. I need similar others that are really trying to figure out how they fit and what is their skill set, what's it going to be for them to be able to be most effective and be supportive. 3 is productivity and collaboration. That's, goal setting and where do we want to go? Where do we want to grow? What are the things that are going to be necessary for us to really be most helpful in supporting the business? And then, of course, finally, the idea is personal development and wellness. And that's the topic of today, is really for us to be able to figure out how are we going to understand looking at the mental aspect. Are there things that we need to do in order to be most effective? And what are some of those that can stop us in our tracks?
Well, so we're going to talk about what is interesting is that when you do a little bit of research, and I think that we don't really take the time out to really understand what's going on, not only on our personal aspect, but in the business aspect. And along with those, when you start adding to your team, what does that look like mentally? Are we healthy as a team, right? But also as an individual, what does that individual look like? And are they being productive in how that's affecting? So I've got a few stats, and I think this is very important for us to really truly stay in tune with, is that 1 in 5 adults experience mental illness each year. So when you look around in your office, you're thinking, okay, who is that person?
One? Or...
Am I that one? Is it a me? Or is it you? And I think that's that check-in system that needs to happen. Yes. And how often do people need to do that?
Well, and here's the thing. At any given moment, someone is having a struggle. And whether that's about, and so the breadth of mental wellness, if you will, on the opposite side of illness is I need to be able to understand what my recovery point is from whatever I'm going through.
Well, I think that's also very interesting. But yet, when you look at the statistics about that, only 1 in 3 will actually go and get help.
Correct.
And I think that we kind of brush it under the rug and we don't realize that's, that it's happening. So as a result, many people either miss work or get less done on their job. So is that something that if you're noticing that, should that be a helping hand of like, okay, what's really going on with you?
Yeah. And the broader context of this conversation. So the short answer is yes. The longer answer is, and I said my response to when the pandemic hit, so we can just kind of put a marker in that. When the pandemic hit, it was fear coming in. It was, oh my gosh, what's going to happen for my business? What's going to be the thing that I need to be concerned with? It was a health thing. It was a health and medical issue. But on the front side of that, I saw immediately the tidal wave that was going to come on the back side of that, which is the mental health, which is what we're working through right now. We come back to work. People are trying to understand, because I've been impacted, because I had family members impacted, I've had people die from this. And because of all of that, and you're quoting the stats, but in the realness of it is that's human emotion. And we can't separate ourselves out from that. We show up to work holistically. And so as a business owner, I need to recognize what my part is in looking around to see, have I done enough? And the term that's come through the mental well-being state is as an owner, as a leader, if I have anybody that is reporting to me or even that I'm working with. So in my business as a coach and as a consultant is I'm constantly looking at how can I support that other person to feel what they call psychological safety. Can I feel safe in my environment? As an owner or as a leader, I absolutely need to figure out ways and open up to having conversations, because if I don't create a space for it, then that conversation will never happen.
So not just asking them, hey, are you okay today? That's limiting that conversation, because most people will say, yes, I'm okay.
Correct. It's the stop short conversation is, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. And I think that that's one of the things that you have to stay really in tune with, because if it's like the wave of personality. So when somebody comes in and they were really excited in one day or 1 week, and then the next week you see that drop in that person in their productivity, or they show no interest, that's when you really need to stay in tune. But I agree with you. I think that this year alone, we've been affected not just in the personal aspect, but in the business aspect. It feels like we're holding our breath.
Yes. And I'm going to tell you so a lot of people don't know this, but I went and got yoga certified. And part of that is also around meditation. And there is a lot of research. I can't quote it right now because I don't have it really in my hand. But the idea of meditation, even 3 to 5 minutes of it, to slow your breath, because a lot of people are breathing from the top part of their lungs and not fully taking in oxygen and expelling it. And because of that, what happens is you go into an anxiety mode. We are putting more and more people into that anxious mode. And right now, literally, we're in December, so we're also in the full swing of holidays. So more people go into shallow breathing. And so not just because I've gone through it, because I do believe in it, is yoga and meditation for anybody, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes a day. Kick off your morning or close out your evening so that you can really get more and more for your body to slow down and relax.
Yeah, I think mine is also where I've got like a straight up 30-minute drive, and I can put on a podcast or put on some music that I can decompress on and be able to refocus. Because, the thing about when we talk about anxiety, I think the anxiety is that we just don't know anymore. Like, we just don't know how to react. And the problem is that we're so involved in ourselves that sometimes we forget that there's other people around us, and we're trying to make room for them too. And making space for them and making space for their mental health so that you can be strong enough to help them, guide them, move them along where they need to be. But as a leader and as a business owner, we're struggling too.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we have an outlet, like we should, because we're always having to hold the hand for everyone else. Who's going to hold our hand?
Exactly.
That's hard.
That's the part where you need to seek the others. So kind of in that framework of how does energy drive us? You have your mental, your thoughts, you have your body, your physicalness. You're moving around. I don't care what kind of job you have. If it's more mentally intensive, you still are moving your body, or hopefully you are getting up from your computer and physically moving so that energy can flow throughout your body. That's another way to get more oxygen in our lungs too, so that you can reduce that anxious tension, is then focus on answering the why question. Why am I on mission? What is my business for? What's the connection? Because it's always going to be about somebody else. You didn't go in business just for yourself to be alone in it. It is, I'm out there for the reason of supporting, in your case, marketing. In my case, helping people to get really clear in their thoughts around their business or around them as a leader. The relationships that we have. Sometimes this time of the year, it gets a little frustrating because we're finding ourselves back in relationships that are once a year ones, the holiday ones.
And
with
I think
family or
and that's
friends.
hard because you've been so some people have been completely separated from their family and friends. Mm-hmm. That isolation is very it's almost very critical for them to really recognize that maybe we don't know how to react, and then we're stepping on eggshells, I think, at some point or another, because we are not foreseeing what this future is going to look like right now, but we're producing, we're moving. There's a lot of parts going 90 miles an hour. And I could see the industry continuing to build. There's a lot of new things happening around a lot of us that I've definitely been around. But I do think that it's really, really important to stay in tune on who you've got around you.
Yes.
So if you've got, and I know we're talking about mental health or mental, illness or mental disorders. The thing is that you got to recognize the group of people that you're around too, because those people can also drag you down.
Yes. And that is that. So the last piece of what I was going to say is the environment. So your relationships and your environment are two that are definitely areas of opportunity that you can move into and move out of. So your networking events, your just simply who's the tribe that you're choosing to have around you.
Yes.
Like who are the voices that you're letting speak into your world, or who are the voices that influence your world? Now, some of those could come from positive or negative. When we talk about seeking feedback, from leadership to employees or vice versa, or just outside of your business back end, like I want feedback. I want to, be able to have my Google Analytics show that I'm doing a pretty good job, right? Well,
thank you for your Google Analytics plug.
But that's it.
I know what you're saying. I mean, I think that
our social media.
Yeah.
We are looking for. That's why we get this ping. Is it's a dopamine.
Well,
hit.
I think that so let's go back to the social media aspect. I think that there's a lot of negative impact that's happening right now with social media. So we are following people that we necessarily don't need to follow, or we're on social media way too long, or we're putting way too much information out there for everyone to know about us. Are we now seeking for watching and staying in tune to those that maybe used to post a lot, but now they're not posting a lot? Or do we look for those messages that are hidden information like, hey, I'm crying for help? What do we do then?
Yeah. And all of those are the pieces where you can start to see if it's someone who's in your tribe and you haven't heard from them for a while, and what your normal routine of conversation is. Is it once a week, once a month, you have some sort of check-in? It's a text, quick as a text. In this day and age, we have so many different ways we can communicate. But I always say, don't ever forget the one that's probably the most impactful, which is just simply actually picking up the phone and making the call.
I think phone calls are just so, they're number one.
Because you're going to hear someone's voice.
You're going to hear that. You're connected to them. There's you can feel and hear the emotion from them, and it's real. A text message and an email and let's play friends on Facebook really is a detached way of connecting. For me, a phone call, even if it's for 5 minutes, just a check-in for 5 minutes. And I think that's accountability. Mm-hmm. I think we have to be accountable for our friends, for our family, for our network, and reaching out to people and saying, hey, are you okay? It's okay to say, you know what, today is not a good day.
Yeah. And for all of us it's going to start with us as an individual, but it's going to end with the collective. It has to be that we're all there. If you want to go back into a phrase that's been around for a long time, we are our brother's keeper. So we have to be looking out for the people around us. And so even if it's someone that I'm not necessarily, infatuated with and they're like, woo, my best friend, it's still important for us to be on the lookout for people. And especially this time of the year, because this is a trigger part of the year where for people, it's like they have these in their head expectations. And so you have to pay attention to where people are starting to disconnect from typical things that you would see them at.
Well,
whether that's networking events, family events.
I agree with
whatever.
you. And I'm going to say this too. We need to stay in tune to the fact that there's a lot of people out there that don't have what they need during this time. And that, food, the necessities. Yeah. So giving back to the community is, I think, something that we definitely can all contribute to. Yes. So it's not just the individual, but as a group, we should be doing something to help our community, to help the people that live here that need our services. And so if you feel like you need to do something and you don't, you don't know what to do, get involved in your community, get involved in your local charities. Give back, because that emotion alone, that little bit of emotion really can spark that happiness or that endorphin that you're looking for too.
And sometimes it's going to be up to us, whether we're a business owner or an individual just trying to find a way to connect into the community, is to use the words, I care. I care about you. I care about your well-being. Like sometimes it's actually just saying the words. And if you don't need to use the words, it's take the action. What can I do to show that phrase? I care about you. I care about your well-being. And, for some, it's just a knock on the door and a hello. For some, it's, going by their place of business and, just being a part of it, having a conversation. It can be a lot of different things. I mean, it's really for us to pay attention to how often are we doing that level of work. And on the flip side of that, if I don't feel I'm there, like I feel like maybe you said 1 in 5 are kind of the crazy ones.
Well, I say the 1 in 5, but only 1 in 3 will actually get any help. But
right
there.
And
so that's a problem.
Am I willing to raise my hand and say, I need help? I need to the people that you feel, back to psychological safety, to the people that you feel safe. So when we flip that back around as business owners, fellow business owners in our community, are we able to look outside of ourselves? And then at the same time say, if it's me, I need to be willing to go and find someone that I can connect with, whether that's a similar other. That's why they have CEO groups and roundtables, because it's lonely at the top sometimes when you're in the middle of owning a business and trying to handle all of these things. Where can I go?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes we need to look for those places and those spaces that can offer us an environment and a set of relationships of me too.
Yeah. I think that's a very strong statement, because when you own a business or you're running, are you trying to grow your business? The ideas and thoughts and theories that you want to put in place sometimes doesn't always make sense to other people. And you do feel you can have that lonely space. And I know that sounds so silly to some people, but it is it's a very small world when you're in a business environment, especially when you're an entrepreneur, because not every idea you want to share or the people that are around you don't necessarily believe in what you do, right? But you do, that small circle really has to matter. So one of the things I wanted to mention to you was that this year alone, there was like 46% adults with mental illness received treatment just in this year alone. So that is a huge number. We've seen a huge increase. When do you think that things will start leveling out? Maybe a year or two? Do we even know?
From this, that's hard pressed. I was just listening to a podcast last night about longevity. And this doctor was talking about, there are things that we can certainly do, and most of the common things, like get the right nutrition, get the right amount of sleep, have a team of doctors that are on your side to say, okay, I'm going to constantly be looking. But one of the things that I thought was fascinating was 2 things. One, he said that you need a set of doctors that are willing to kind of challenge you in all of those aspects, eating, nutrition, exercise, etc., but also mental health and mental well-being. Do you have a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a coach that is focused on helping you get that mental model adjusted for yourself? So are you coming in with the attitudes, the thoughts, the beliefs, the expectations that are going to help support you? And in addition to that, it becomes, are you willing to have that conversation?
Oh, well, we talk about that, though. I mean, that productivity that we're looking for all of the people that work for us and stuff. And so it's saying that with depression and anxiety, it's a global economy. So it costs like $1 trillion in loss of productivity of last year. But those that do go and get help, they see they see like almost a 4% increase return in that value that they put out. So I'm not saying not to go get the help, that we shouldn't spend the money to help these people, but we do need to talk about the one thing that's the silent killer is suicide. Yes. And that is so hard for people to really identify. One is two, that we know someone around us, even me and you sitting here in this room with you, we know someone that has taken their life.
Or is threatened to do it.
Yes.
Where it was openly expressed. So saying that is what happened. Let's just go back to that anchoring point when we were locked down, March of 2020, when the pandemic said we are no longer being allowed out. That in and of itself for extroverts caused a lot of pain and suffering, because their whole way of getting energy is connecting to other people. So you just shut them in. But even for those that are introverts, initially it was like, yay, I'm in and I don't have to deal with people. But there also came a point. So you just started to create this kind of perfect storm mix of where mental health has to be looked at. And if we look at it from a business standpoint, it is all of our responsibilities to be looking for it, to address it, and help others to really recognize that it is the big issue. And so suicide being part of that is when you have isolation, it's the thing that happens in prison when they put them in solitary confinement. They go crazy. So that 1 in 5 stat just goes along with every other aspect of how the world is charged. And from a psychology standpoint is we need to be paying attention anytime someone has an irregular pattern. They could have high highs and low lows where they have a pendulum swing, manic depression. They could have where they are removing themselves from a peer group. And we never know. So whether it is a phone call or a text, some form of a swing by and say, hey, I was thinking about you. That's kind of the easiest one, that even if you don't know what to say, just simply sending or
say
calling.
Hello. Just say hello.
I was thinking about you.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about you. Actually, I did that one, the phone call before I got here. I had a moment where I needed to call someone and say, hey, how are you doing? I'm checking in with you. Yeah. And then you find out the news about them. You just support them and say, okay, let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Let me know I'm here for you. I think that's so important. Let them know that not just saying it, but actually doing it. And I think that's two different things too.
Yeah. And that's the key of it is when you look for opportunities, what you just did and what you said is, I don't know a way to support you right now because it's such a strong, in this case, condition that is coming back. Like I thought about it. So my sister, I don't know if I even told you this, but in August, she found out that she had stage 2 breast cancer. Okay. Wow. Rocks the world. Strong person, very tough. But I could just see and hear her attitude and her mindset of she was locking into going, you know what, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's fight it. Went for the surgery right away. She got a great team of doctors around her. They put into action a protocol that said, we're going to move right into radiation. Here's your number of treatments. Right after that, we're going to give you a few weeks for recovery. Then we're going to do your next surgery, which is the final surgery, which was this last week. And again, it's just what's the next step? And through that, I said, I'm here for you. I don't know what to do really, but I'm going to gauge on what you tell me to be supportive. And I love you and I care for you and I'm here for you. Beyond that, I took an opportunity to go back at Thanksgiving so that I could actually physically be around her and give her the hug.
Give her the hug. Yeah.
Hadn't been around her for a year. Last Christmas was the last time. But it's, and we can't do that for everybody, but the opportunities that we do have is getting better at the check-in. I think for many of us, what we've done is, and I can say I fall prey to this. Hey, I put the update on Facebook or social media. I'm still alive. Where you just kind of do some things that are kind of like a
well,
check
I think
the
that
box.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, we do talk about it. Facebook and social media can be that facade.
Mm-hmm.
We have to set that aside and go, okay, I'm seeing that they're posting, but yet am I actually reaching out and saying hello?
It's at the highlight
reel. Am I
reels.
actually saying, are you okay? And that includes the people that work with you. Yep. And being in the room with them and being in tune to what's going on is so important. And we all make, choices of okay, did I make a mistake? Did this person leave the business because did I not really understand what was really going on with them? And that's where you learn some of those valuable lessons of going, okay, what did I do that I should have done? Or what did I should have done to communicate that? But I want to make a comment about this, that even when we talk about treatment, right, we go for treatment, but the percentage of females over males is actually higher. So females will go out and get the help they need. Males do not. So, but when we go back to the statistics of suicide, we see a higher percentage in suicides male side. So is it because we're telling the males to hold it all in, not to get the help they need, to be able to express what's going on in their minds? I'm not saying that we're trying to raise sissies, guys that, no, don't show your feelings. But I do think that the male aspect really just holds it in.
Yeah. Well, this is literally a now conversation, meaning that from generations past, yes, it was to be tough, to be a tough male is to, have that hard exterior and not really show any emotion, not cry. I mean, things that we're kind of trained into, and it's not that there aren't females that show up that way, but because generationally it was, this is how we think tough men should show up. It's changing, and current generation really understands much better how to show up with emotion and be connected. But yes, what you're saying about the suicide rates for men, because here's the thing, for females, we sit a little bit longer in our mind and process and ruminate, whereas males, when they make a decision, typically are like, that's it. I've got the gun, I'm going to pull the trigger. And what's interesting, and I don't know if you have the stats on this, but I was reading a report about, because of social media and because this idea of that highlight reels, is that younger and younger kids are actually committing suicide, like talking about 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds. And what parents have to be on the lookout for is that around the same thing is they don't have the mental capacity yet. Because, I mean, they may appear like 8 going on 21, but mental capacity is that they don't really understand the finality of a decision, of going and getting something, pulling a trigger and having, that be final. So this kind of walks us through, do we really recognize in anyone around us? So it's much more important for us to pay attention to what's going on. Do we have that level of environment and relationship where people do feel psychologically safe? And this is every business owner. If I'm a solopreneur, I need to be looking at the clients that I'm working with. I need to just pay attention. Like for me, and this is just how I operate, but I sometimes over communicate or connect, I guess is probably the better way to say it, in that I just have touch points, because I just want to check in to see, are you doing what you say you are going to do? So I want to help you get to that next level. But it's also about, can you really understand that you matter? You matter in the business that you have. You matter in the growth that's going on. And this time of the year, I think it's even more important to just have those. I got an actual handwritten card from somebody. I'm like, wow, that tells me that they are putting in that time to show they care.
Well, I agree with you. I think that one of the things that I do in rotation is, because maybe once a week I do a call in, just a call. It doesn't have to even be a meeting. It's just a call in, and randomly call them, say, hey, how are you doing? Everything goes great. And it's not just about the business aspect. Yeah. It's about the mental aspect of like, it's okay to feel this way in the business aspect. But you touched on something that you said, that we're looking at our teenagers now. Not that we've excluded them, but we do know that as adults, if we are definitely dealing with anxiety and stress, our younger generation is too. And so we have to really understand that, okay, if we can't be the model of like the touch points that you talk about, then what, and if we can't teach them that, then they don't know that we're there and that we care about them too. So I think that and there's some percentages that show the suicide rates and things but we have to really stay in tune to what's going on. So one of the things that I was talking about and that I read on was, there's companies that use this thing called employee assisted program. It's called EAP. Or do you know a little bit about that?
So when I was working in telecom, large corporation, they have EAP. The anonymous, I have an issue, let me call this 800 number. They had the mental health support there. So whether it was, I'm grieving through a death of a parent, I'm feeling so low, and I feel like maybe I'm in a state of depression. I can't really talk to my boss about, or I don't feel I can talk to my boss about that. But that goes back to, again, psychological safety. As leaders, managers, we have to own that. And it's no longer just a nicety, it is a necessity. I think there's a lot of leadership and executive teams that are missing the mark on that. I am working with one right now to just ensure they're getting younger leaders coming into roles that are trying to figure out, how do I best serve? But it's all generations. We all need to just get better at it. So EAP, when you look at it, is that an employee assistance program. It really is full encompassing. I mean, it's everything from mental health to financial support. Like when you call into that number, it then will spit you out into, what category of support do you need that you're not getting from, or you can't get from your leader or manager. So in a corporate environment, they have that built in. Small business entrepreneurs, you don't have it. You need to make that. So you really need to have go back old-timey Rolodex, you need to have a contact list that says, here are people that I can reach out to, or if I hear someone else having a need, here are people. So I'm one that runs with a really long, extensive list of connections, and I call myself a connector because I feel like, and this is just my own personal mission, to help people to get to that better next level of life.
So you're kind of like this genie in a bottle networker.
Try to.
So you're basically, and it's good to have
I can't
that.
rub my hair, but.
Well, that's true. I can't rub your thing and wish me.
My little lantern or
$1 million.
Be Aladdin.
But I do think that it's very interesting when we're connecting with people, we need to stay in tune to who really can work for us, not only just as our own benefit, but for other people. And that's what you're kind of creating these little networking fillers. Like, okay, well, if there's a need, I've got a fix for you. Is that how you work?
Well, yeah, I mean, short answer, yes. I mean, the idea for me is I'm constantly looking at more than just what we've contracted to do the work on. Is I'm hearing when you have another subtle need, and it's like, choose to call this person or not. Here's a person who I think might help. So I am constantly.
You're giving them those options.
Yeah.
I think that's a smart way of listening. You stay in tune to what's going on. And I think that's really important because you're not just there in the room, but you're listening to the words that are coming out. Yeah. And, when I first met you, it was pretty interesting how you just, I don't know, we connected so well together. And then we've kind of built this relationship where you still come in and you give me business advice, and it's really helped me grow as an individual, as a business leader, and also the people around me. So it's given me the confidence that, okay, all right, today was not such a great day, or I didn't have a good day. And you're like, Carla, it's normal. It's okay. And we want people to know that in the business industry, it's okay to have a bad day. And some of us we get stuck in it. Some people get stuck in it.
Well, here's, and I'm gonna speak for myself, because this is where I think a lot of people get stuck in the rut. Is they strive for that idea of perfection, and there isn't perfect out there. Like, it's okay to have something that drives you, but to think that you're going to show up perfectly and have a perfect day every single day, when whomever out there finds that person, call me, reach out to me. I want to talk to them. I have a ton of questions that I need to ask them, because to show up perfect, to me, it's the human condition to show up not perfect. That's what makes us connect. That's what builds relationships.
I know I'm not perfect.
I'm a recovering perfectionist my mind.
I'm a recovering perfectionist. But I've gotten better at just letting certain things go so that I'm not holding on them so tightly.
Yeah.
I think that we get caught up in the moment, and then we kind of drive ourselves in that moment, when we realize that sometimes you learn from whatever's going on around you. And that's what makes it different for certain people. And that's how we measure. I think, to me, it's like measuring success of not just somebody signing my contract and saying, hey, I want to do business with you, right, but also knowing the fact that I've learned and grown, and I'm putting the right people on my team, and am I in tune to what's going on around me? And I think that meeting you with that as well, and we kind of hash things out together, it makes me look at the bigger pictures, like, okay, what's the biggest drive? And, but as a business owner, sometimes we get caught up of like, woe is me, right? And that's that catch. And so how long do you feel like people should hold on to something and let it go?
Well,
5 minutes, one day.
So funny thing, in my coaching practice, there was at one point I was dealing with a leadership team. I was actually coaching an entire leadership team, in an industry that was all about data and hard numbers. And I remember she was, head of accounting and finance. And we had this conversation because she came into the coaching session and she was just just all of the negative, woe is me, all of that. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And I literally put a timer on my phone for 2 minutes. I said, you can cuss, you can swear, you can cry, you can like berate somebody. I said, you have 2 full minutes. And then we're going to move on, because I don't want you staying stuck in this, because it's going to color your day. Emotionally, it colors your day. It colors how you show up. In your attitude towards people, and you don't even recognize, they're like, whoa, what's wrong with that person? Because we've got all that negative energy going through our head. And physiology is attached to what we think about. So the way, the physicalness of how we show up in our environment is literally attached to our thoughts. And in order for us to move past it, and that's not to say, I mean, people are dealing with some really hard stuff. Is 2 minutes enough? Probably not. But it is about, can we convert that negative mindset, moving it towards productive, it doesn't always mean positive, but more productive ways of thinking. Like, can I start to look for solutions? Can I look for options? You know, when someone's dealing with a cancer diagnosis, it's like, what are my options? The doctors and the team, they're not talking about like the disease. They're talking about the options of how to get past it. Okay. So much like that in the way that we show up as leaders or as employees, everybody can have a bad day. But it's, what do we do? Do we hang on to that bad day for a day, a week, a month, a year? I think all of us might know some person that's kind of like that character in Charlie Brown Pigpen that has the flies and the dirt and the bugs floating around him. Okay. If you catch that visual, like they're just that black cloud person. And it is, we all have options. Now, some of them may be in the mental health state where they're in depression. So are there things that we can do to support them to find their options? But for ourselves, it is, how long am I going to stay in this? And can I get people, sometimes I need music to do it. I'm going to give you some options of how to get up and out. For some people, it's like, can I get a better soundtrack? Like, I talk about this. Put on some music that you love that can give you that boost of energy, because music also helps us with our vagus nerve, which is kind of like a second brain, to get that feeling inside of us to change. So our biorhythms can change. Music. What about just having a conversation with someone that you know can just make you laugh? Yeah. Comedy. Yeah. You know, laughing is good medicine.
It's endorphins, right? Mm-hmm. Those good feel endorphins. Yeah. I was also, I was listening to this podcast one time, and it talked about just the state of you know, you talk about impressions when somebody walks into the door, you know exactly just from their aura, right? You're talking about, they walk in the room and you know if they're in a good mood, bad mood, or this is going to be one heck of a day, right? Mm-hmm. And so, there was talking about that just smiling at someone actually induces endorphins in our body. Yes. So if I smiled at you and you smile back at me, that gives those releases of good energy, endorphins. So when we talk about that, that's something that we need to recognize in people that we are so close to, or those people that are just out of the norm that you're like, okay, they're not balanced well. Something's off. We need to stay in tune with that, right? And I think that's so important. It's like paying attention. I think we get in so much of our own cloud that we're not down on the ground with our 2 feet going, what's really going on? And we have to stay in tune with that.
And so one of the last things I'll talk about is levels of happiness. So it kind of can relate to how do we choose joy in the American or in the Western world versus Eastern philosophy, and that can be its own podcast. But this idea of happiness is, I'll break it down to 4 levels. Level 1 is kind of that immediate gratification, like having a piece of yummy pie, like it tastes really good. Feeling like I just crossed the finish line and I broke the tape. Like those are immediate, like you can see it, feel it, hear it, experience it. It is all right there immediate. A secondary level that can bring us happiness is when we get awarded or recognized for something. So this is where it's important for leaders and managers or business owners to recognize this. And that's why Google Analytics is so important, is because it's like, who are people talking about, or how are they talking about my business or your business or whatever? And so recognition. So back in the probably 80s to 90s, it got into overkill with kids where it was like, hey, you get a trophy for participating. You get a trophy for showing up. It's like, really? Like just
they kind of do that now, but
they're working away from it.
I'm hoping that they'll get away from that, because we do need to let people know that, hey, at a young age, we do fail. Right?
And there's still work that has to be done, not just to show up. Mm-hmm. There's actually action and effort. So level 1 is immediate gratification. Level 2 is being recognized. Level 3 is doing good for others. So this time of the year, a lot of people start to think about that. Philanthropic work, being out there actually, gifting things to other people, sharing business. That's why referrals feel good. Like I can give you a referral and that feels good for me, but it also feels good for you. So happiness levels go up. And then the final one, which is the one that we can maybe touch into in a moment, which is euphoric bliss, like that which is like deep, deep happiness and joy. And parents, I have not been a parent, birthed a child, but those that have been parents and birthed a child usually are saying, you know, when the baby arrives, well, for most of them, they have this blissful moment. Like it's just, they can't even put it into words. They just feel that deeply in them.
It's a deep connection.
Yeah, it's actually euphoric, like high almost.
Absolutely.
And that's where that deep happiness. So we can get into those, but ultimately for all of us, we're trying to get more of that, get that euphoric happiness that can happen. And so whether it's through immediate gratification, recognition, doing the good for others, or trying to get into that dip of euphoric bliss. And sometimes we do that when we go after a goal and we hit it and it took a lot of effort to get there. We can dip into that for just a moment, but then it's fleeting and it goes away. And so then we want to do it again. And that's why I believe small business and entrepreneurs do what they do, is because they hit those little euphoric hits every once in a while, like, oh, wasn't that great? I want to do more of that. And then all the other things start to come, like, yeah, it's not that easy. Like, there's a lot of work.
It's not. And I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I think being a business owner, I think that the same conversation that we tend to have is like, are we doing the right thing? Do we second guess ourselves? Absolutely. Do we go to the wrong path or make a bad decision? Absolutely. Do we fail? Yes. But it is rewarding to see that the hard work, because it is hard work. It's hard work every single day, 7 days a week, every single day that we look at going, what can we do to make it better? Not just the business aspect of getting a client, but also what are we doing within our own house, which is the people that are working with us. Do we have the right people on the team? And we talk about this, and it's really important to stay in tune with that so that we've got strong mental capabilities of understanding what's happening around us, and we have to stay in tune with that. And today was a really good topic. I think is something that we really need to talk more about, that people don't want to talk about, because we all, some of us, I think we suffer from that small little bit of like, today is just not going to be that day. And how do I get myself out of it? And who do I need to contact? Reach out. Yeah. Reach out to people. So today, thank you, Lori, for this great podcast. We can definitely talk about statistics and numbers, because I'm all about that, but definitely stay in tune with the warning signs.
Yes. It's important to be on the lookout in yourself and in others, and just find those quick little ways that maybe you can put an extra pause in to reset for yourself the mental side of things. Breathing is one.
Well, I don't think it's not easy always recognizing it, but if you see the mood changes, or if you see the moods are up and they're completely down, or they're out of control, or they're feeling self-pity, take a moment. Take 2 minutes to say, reach out and talk to someone. Or if you're feeling those things, because we don't necessarily want people to know that we're feeling sad, right?
So if you're in a large organization, you have your EAP programs. If you're in a small business entrepreneur, there are mental health support out there in the communities to go. But also, think about the tribe that you're a part of and reach out, or just be on the lookout for others.
Well, today was a great podcast on our mental health in the workplace. Thank you, Lori. Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll do another one next year, because we'll put some other ones together. But thank you for staying tuned. Appreciate you coming by.
Thank you.
And then I appreciate it all. Thank you.